There's a lot of people asking about oil filters. I've seen many sites where they actually sell an oil filter, just a typical regular oil filter cartridge for a Honda. They sell them for these 200 4-tracks. Like 1991 to 1997, the Type 2s, just a typical, like this one's just a typical Honda 4-tracks TRX200. It's a, then you've got the Type 2, but all of them are basically the same engines from 91 to 97. And the only oil filter, was actually two, but they're encased behind the clutch cover. And all you do is have to remove them and clean them. Of course, this is your clutch adjustment, so your clutch is directly here. There's actually another pulley right behind this cover. Of course, you got to take the whole thing off to actually get to the oil filters. There's one oil filter right here. There's also a square slide-in screen in the very bottom that you can see once this complete cover right here has been removed. And I printed off a diagram to show you. If you see the centrifugal oil filter, you have to remove, once you got the cover off, you remove these 3 screws. You have a gasket. You know, if the gasket is damaged, hopefully you can get it off without damaging the gasket. The gasket's probably hard to get. If it doesn't tear too bad and you mark it, you can put it back in the exact same way that you took it off. It may just fit back together, you know, good enough to where it wouldn't have any issue. But if you look right here, it says oil filter. The oil filter is actually right inside there. You can remove it and clean it with a rag. And you also want to clean all the inside of this cover on the back side. Clean everything you can out from inside this assembly while you've got it off. You know, you can rinse it out with some carburetor or brake cleaner, anything like that also. Just make sure you get it all out before you put it back together. And on the other one, on this one here, you can see this is a oil strainer screen that slips right in that slot directly below the centrifugal oil filter pulley. And if you look right here, it says engine oil strainer screen centrifugal filter. Remove the right crankcase cover. Remove the oil strainer screen from the right crankcase. Clean the oil strainer screen by washing it in solvent and blowing it dry with compressed air. Reinstall the oil strainer screen into the right crankcase. Just pretty common sense for this lower one here. On the other one, this is from the direct Honda owner's manual. Remove the centrifugal oil filter cover and gasket. Clean the oil filter cover and the inside of the filter using a clean, lint-free shop towel. Do not allow dust and dirt to enter the crankshaft oil passage. Do not use compressed air to clean the filter. Reinstall the oil cover with a new gasket. A new gasket's the problem. A lot of this stuff you can't hardly buy any parts for. Aligning the bolt holes in the cover and gasket, of course, they're talking about these 3. When you're putting the cover back on, then reinstall the oil filter cover with a new gasket. Line the bolt holes in the cover and gasket. Apply locking agent to the bolt threads and install the bolts. But usually, I've done this several times. Normally, when I remove this cover, most of the time it don't tear the gasket, or if it does just a little bit. But before I remove this, I'll mark it, like on one of these screws. I'll mark it before I take it out. I'll mark it with I've got these red paint markers. I'll mark that cover, and I'll mark where it come off at. That way when I put it back on, because if a gasket's torn, you can put it back in the same position it came off, and it fits very good, and it doesn't give you any issues. The reason they want that to be sealed very tightly, as this is kind of like I would assume it was similar to a centrifugal oil pump. it actually pumps oil throughout the engine. So you really want this to be sealed pretty good. If you're worried about it, put a very small, just a very small amount of like a Permatex, you know, something that's, but you just make sure you use a very small amount. You don't want it, you don't want it to, any to break loose inside of here and then get in and clog up that filter or your oil lines. Because if you see here, it says do not allow dust or dirt to enter the crankshaft oil passage. So that oil passage goes directly to your crankshaft, and so you really want this to be, you know, sealed. You don't want to get any lint or debris inside of that. But that's the only type of oil filter this thing has, and they're very, most of them, if you've got them, they're very old. You know, up to 30 years old if you've got a 91, and that is something that needs to be done periodically to make sure this engine is getting oil throughout the whole engine, and you don't have a major engine malfunction or burn up your crank or anything. Parts are so hard to get. If that happened, it doesn't matter how nice your unit is, it's pretty much turned into junk immediately. But that's all I wanted to show you, was this right here. If you want to screenshot that so you can read it, I'll do this one and this one here. I know a lot of people trying to figure out exactly what to do. Well, this one here is an unusual, clean, nice unit. It was a barn find. I actually found it on that Facebook marketplace. I saw it 8 minutes after it was posted. I mean, it is, a veterinarian owned it, and it had pretty much just sat in a barn since 1991. So this is where Yeti got their idea for their coolers. Original Honda design. So you got a vent tube here. So you can pour ice. This is a drain hole. It's got a stopper under there you can pop off. So that's got a built-in cooler or storage compartment.